mix them up sometimes, and I think I forget at times what I've written and what Sean's written, but we're mixing them up sometimes. So on to the next poem, which kind of follows that track.
This is a poem on the theme of introversion. Introversion, the introversion of the self. Some of us never move beyond. The provisional life, Young called it. The lifetime spent introducing yourself to yourself. Never, I guess, moving toward the consummate performance of the accomplished, familiar persona. The extrovert's dependable double, not like ours, always on the rocks, always in trouble, slipping back inside, sometimes while everyone's watching. When I was very young, were you the same? I thought if I just closed my eyes, no one could see me.
With eyes closed, dashing inside for a few words, a few missing vowels. Though my story went in the opposite way, always the youthful performer, it took years to undo the tricks with language and gesture I'd unfailingly perform, years to uncrowd a space, to let the lines of silent writing fill out, grow dense, inhabit their own environs, build a body that was almost comfortable in its own silent skin.
The search for a language and self without tricks. The hunger for failure, running from the closed circle of the circus. The applause perhaps that still haunts you, blue breeze in autumn leaves. Because you skipped, did you not, from the springtime of promise to a willful fall, shunning the blatant certainties of summer.
Okay, the next theme poem is called Father Outside. The title comes from American poet and memoirist Nick Flynn. I was teaching Nick Flynn's amazing memoir called Another Bullshit Night in Suck City, which is a great book, which was actually, I don't know what happened. It was supposed to, there was a film that was made with Robert De Niro in it, and I never saw it come out anywhere. But anyway, it's a great book, and it's a memoir. Flynn's a poet and a memoirist, and it's about his father who disappears and who lives homeless on the streets of Boston for half of his life. And the book is about Flynn's kind of search for his father and search for himself. And so it begins with a poem called Father Outside. Father outside, mother in, the lawnmower, water boiling. I'm in the living room listening to them talk in this, their way, to each other, more or less distant than their real conversations. The effort about to resume over lunch, grass cut, table set, the radio saying its grace with adverts, and everyone still waiting for him to come in.
But he's not coming in. The puttering, the journeying, the filling time outside will continue forever or evermore, for as long as there are fathers and outsides for them to escape to. Fathers alone with a car, a bottle, a pen. Fathers with notebooks, canvases, diatribes. Fathers on computers, on ham radios, technologists of elsewhere, building structures to admit temporarily and then to exclude, as far as they can get, on benches, in shelters, far back in the backs of cars, heading out.
Fathers as lonely, only children, looking in through the glass, various glasses, at the families that adopted them. Thank you.
This letter poem, M, is one of my favourite pieces. I think because our separate parts are so loosely yet somehow truly connected. I've always loved that in poetry. The emphasis on what the 18th century English poet William Cooper called slight connections. A kind of dreamlike sagging that makes you aware in a drifty kind of way, how artificially undreamlike most of reality is. Cooper, however, went mad. Perhaps stuck between dream and reality, childhood and adulthood, in a way we try loosely to explore here. M. More or less me.
More margins, more mess, less stress.
The scroll of self, that's all. I love the word, marginalia.
Crawling down a long white tunnel in a dream or on a page.
Children breathing butterflies in the cold winter morning, waiting for the school bus, half-moon setting.
Roadside garbage covered in tattered blankets, the smell of winter and diesel, the day about to begin.
More or less over. In addition to our usual mix of letter and theme poems, we occasionally add in a call and response piece, written over email usually rather than in person, in which one of us will throw out a single short line and the other will respond with whatever association in language or memory or fantasy the line evokes.
I'll explain. There's a couple of notes for these that I should explain. The Victory store mentioned here. This is the Russian. It's a Russian grocery store in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where I lived for 2 years teaching. And it's this very weird place where you can get all kinds of things like Czechoslovakian cookies that you couldn't get anywhere else. You get all this weirdly sort of Eastern European packaged goods. So anyway, that's the Victory store.
Okay, we call these associated poems. Associated poems number 1. Where I stand on the tricky issue of me.
Standing outside me, looking in.
If I were a Greek god, which would it be?
Italian cities unvisited.
On the sweet consolation of verse.
Sweeteners.
Science.
Sins.
The professional persona.
Forgeries.
I like thinking of empty buildings.
In the ruin of fallen cities.
Nothing.
Anxiety.
The fear of epiphany.
Elephants in eternity.
From epigraph to epitaph.
What the billboard really said.
Announcements in the grocery store.
Overheard in the Victory store.
The strange appeal of minor illness.
What I do when I lie in bed.
Coma.
Committed to stasis.
The setting for our collaboration has been Cape Breton University. Either the faculty lounge, now named after the late Michael Manson, or the student learning commons. Some people here may have spotted us, huddled together whisperingly of a Thursday morning. But around these two quite pleasant oases lies, to my eye anyway, an institutional desert of corridors, desks in rows, bleak box rooms, more corridors, etc. I have a problem with corridors. They look like prose. It is, to put it mildly, and to anticipate a later poem, a space from which the angels have been evicted. But what matters about the campus, not that architecture doesn't, is what happens in the classrooms. Whether the students are expected to walk down the years of their degree like a long corridor, or whether they are invited and allowed free roam of thought and imagination. Bad teachers bring the corridor into the classroom. Good teachers turn the classroom into a field, straight lines into circles. This is a poem about bad teachers we knew. Not at university, but high school. It's called Open the Book.
Yeah, partly I think it's about, it's also about, it's about books and teachers and books and readers, and ultimately for me it becomes about books and parents and children as well. So yeah, open the book. You're starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Open the book and turn to page, or turn into the page, as I used to imagine or pray in class. The teacher's camera eyes scanning the rows, waiting to select the target, zoom in. Turn to the page, turn white, panic rising. Bury your hands, your face in the snow, and walk away with what's left, something they didn't take from you. The girl on my right is asked to read. The book is open, but her eyes are closed, a final moment. And when she opens them, they're not her own. And this was Shakespeare, by the way.
I remember too the trauma of that moment when the book was to be opened, all eyes, all ears on me, the panic starting many rows back, silently practicing the hard words, the sound of a voice, never hearing the sound, never hearing the language outside of my mother's voice, reading for the night. That was the only time the book was opened readily, received as a kind presence, not an intruder, a challenge, a trial. Open the book on your wrongs, the story of what you failed to do. Open the book of deficit, the record of what's not there, the book of shame.
In the beginning was the word. In the beginning was the voice. And all it wanted you to do was listen, drift, back to the place, not just words, but you came from, once upon a time. Look, if they have made words a test, it's our job to fail it.
Okay, the next theme poem is called Law. This one was written in the faculty lounge, now the Manson Lounge. And in the back room there's, if anybody's noticed it, the shelves are stacked with these odd provincial, like Nova Scotia provincial court law books, which why would one open? But one day we were back there and we started opening them. Anyway, we wanted to dedicate this poem to Mike and that place, and I think Mike would have gotten a kick out of all of this. Mike was very much, my first line of this poem is not that I was thinking of Mike then, but I'm thinking of Mike now, and Mike was very much against the law, which was the first line of this poem, and that's it's a presence that maybe informs us, and that both of us miss that kind of charge of the outlaw, which I felt immediately in department meetings in particular, and I kind of missed that like electrical outlaw energy where you never quite knew what was going to happen next.
I just want to quickly add that Mike Manson, when I came to CBU, I've been writing for many, many years with no success whatever, and I showed some stuff to Mike. He was very, very encouraging and supportive. And I knew I could trust his opinion, and it meant a lot to me, so he was important for me.
Law, against the, around the, lay down or avoid. How unpleasant to be the subject of the law, much more productive to be within, surrounded like on a stage by a group of dancers. To swim with the lines of various laws, to be guided by currents not quite your own, the laws that aren't imposed.